All right, hello people. It's the third part of the video on how to find the most profitable niche on Amazon KDP. And again, I am with Ben, and we're gonna be covering that last. And actually, I know that there are a lot more to cover, but these are all of the criteria that Ben was discussing on the first and the second video. So Ben, yeah, why don't you give us a quick recap on everything? Or just want to go forward with all it because
We'll
we
do
will
a
be adding the
super,
link of the videos as well, right?
yeah, we'll put the parts 1 and 2 down below. Make sure you go back and check those out. I'll quickly kind of summarize the previous criteria, but in the first video, we talked about validating. So this is all about validating a profitable niche to write a book about on Amazon KDP. So if you're trying to figure out what to write a book about, trying to figure out where there's good demand to create a product around, this video is the third part about that process. Now, in the first video, we talked about our first three criteria, which are finding your main keyword in the title of some of the search results on page one, the
Hmm.
number of competitors, and the monthly search volume. Those are kind of the first three criteria. So make sure you go back and watch that first video about that. The second video, we talked about average BSR or bestsellers rank of your page one results. This helps to validate demand. We talked about number of listings or books on that first page that have a BSR of less than 30,000. That tells us we can have a breakout book potentially. And we talked about the average revenue of the books on page one of a given search term. That's a quick recap. That's in part 1 and 2 down below. If you want a copy of this Google Sheet that has all the criteria, you can message Arvin or myself on either LinkedIn or on our website, productshouse.com, which we'll put a link to both of those things down below, and just ask for the KDP niche research template. All right. Should we get into this and go over the next few criteria?
Yeah, let's finish this one up.
Okay, cool. So our next, and this is the first new criteria piece for this video, is this column right here, column G, average number of reviews on page one. So we want to see that there are people getting reviews. Normally, if there's a category that has search demand, obviously there should be people that have reviews. We also want to make sure that the average is not super, super high, because obviously that also indicates how entrenched the current people are. And it means that if they're above, in this case, I wrote my criteria is anything above an average review count of 200 is where we start to
Hmm.
need to proceed a little bit more with caution because it starts telling us there's a lot of pretty entrenched sellers that have been there for a while. Yellow is going to be between 75 to 200 average reviews. And if it's less than 75, we're in a pretty good place. Now, again, I'm going to say this, I've said it in every video. If you get in a red on your, so we're going to look at crochet for beginners and hydroponics for this video today, but if you have one red and a couple of yellows and a couple of greens, maybe two reds, it doesn't mean if you get a red, you should automatically disqualify this category. It just is an indicator that you need to think about it a bit more. And so, for example,
Hmm.
if you have really high search volume, and there's, let's say, no competitors, but the competitors there have an average review count above 200, that could still be a really good category to go into, right? So we're kind of trying to take all these pieces. And so, again, normally as I'm going through this process, on a sheet like this or on an Excel sheet, I'm going to be jotting down keywords and actually marking my color indicators as I go through these different criteria. That's how I personally do it. Okay, so with all that said, so let's go and actually look at this. So crochet for beginners, I've got pulled up here. We're using Helium 10. There are obviously other different tools you can do. And we can see right away, average reviews, 2,100. Okay, that's a lot. That means the average review count on page one, 2,100. You can see that means also that there's a lot of very entrenched sellers in here. That's going to be
Hmm.
tough to go up against. So in that case, this would definitely get our red, right? Now we can check hydroponics just to give us an example. 148 reviews. Okay, that's much better, right? That's going to put us with hydroponics into our yellow zone, and that's a good one. Now we already talked in the last videos. Hydroponics is actually got some bad stuff going for it too. It's normally a lower search volume. So we're kind of trying to find like the balance between very competitive and categories that have no demand. You know, we want to find something that's kind of that sweet spot. And these are our criteria to go about doing it. So that's average
And
reviews. Arvin, what questions? Please ask away.
no, sorry. I'm just curious. So, are you also considering the star rating of that one, or just the number of reviews?
I personally don't consider the star rating as much, but that is a
Hmm.
really good call out, actually, is if you have like a couple people and they've got maybe a lot of reviews, but you see the star rating sucks, That, I mean, it's just like doing a private label product is you can find ways to improve. And also
Yeah.
that's a good call out for writing the book is you can go and read reviews or scrape the reviews from your competitors and see what people the negative reviews are saying. So that's a really good
Yeah.
question.
Actually, yes, because yeah, you can look at the reviews that these customers are leaving in there, and you can use it to actually improve or maybe enhance your the writing of your book. But actually, one thing that I would like to add in there in the number of reviews is also try to be a bit more considerate when you're actually researching. Let's say, for example, on the first criteria that you use that you have like lower BSRs or higher BSRs, then therefore maybe you have to adjust your criteria as well on the number of reviews because the higher the BSR, maybe then there will be they're just starting selling it. So then therefore Amazon they don't have that much reviews as well to start. So
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
really
you
good
just
call
have
out.
to balance thing as well.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I think that's why this stuff, everything that we're going over in this criteria is it's good. They're all data points, but I still, after I maybe will go through and analyze 10 to 20 like keywords I think are pretty solid. I will then sit back and just look through them and use the human brain rather than just my analytical brain to say, okay, based on these data points, which ones of these are going to be my best options, right? It's very rare you'll ever find something that's like a green all across the board on all our criteria. In fact, I have yet to come across that. If anyone comes across it, message Arvin and I, and we'll write a
Messages.
book with you.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to analyze each one of these and then think through it and then make the best choice. And the first books that I wrote, they still had a lot of things that I was like, I don't know if this is that good, but it was the best option out of the different things I went through. And then I found a way to write a really good book about that topic or that keyword. So, all right, we're going to switch gears a little bit.
Okay. Hmm.
The last few things, and I'm going to actually show these all at once on the screen because these ones we're kind of down to the final criteria here. So we've gone through and actually done a lot of our criteria to validate everything on Amazon itself. And so now it starts to change pace a little bit. And we're actually going to look at two things on Audible. That's what these two columns, I and J, are. And then we're going to step back and ask ourselves some questions. So the two things on Audible. So the goal with writing books is we want to come out with an ebook, we want to come out with a paperback, we want to come out with a hardcover, and then we want to convert that and write an audio or have an audiobook created. Audiobooks,
Hmm.
I think, are still one of the golden opportunities in the books category. Why? Because you can get in very competitive niches that are Amazon competitive niches, but on Audible, people have gotten lazy or whatever. They haven't taken the time or spent the very minimal amount of money to get an audiobook created. And so you have normally far less competition. Let's go back and just look really quick. So, Crochet for Beginners in the books category, there's over 9,000 results on Amazon in the books category. If I go to Audible and I search Crochet for Beginners, there are a grand total of 17 results showing. Now,
Hmm.
we're going to talk about something in a second because I know there's a big kind of red flag thing here, and it's one of our criteria. Hydroponics, 119 results on Amazon in the books category. There are over 5,000 results. So you can get a sense now of how much less competition there is on Audible. Our criteria is going to be we're going to look first at the number of results less than five, or sorry, less. We want to make sure that the review count is there's not too many that have entrenched reviews. And we're going to
Hmm.
ask ourselves the question, is this book
Yeah.
good for both written form and audio form? Okay.
That was
The
what
reason it,
the
oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, sorry. That was actually what I was about to ask because I mean, because I'm considering is crochet for beginners something that is good for audiobook because
Exactly.
I have to see it, right? So not just listening to it. So is that what you're
Yep.
going through?
That's
Okay.
exactly it. So let's start with that one because crochet for beginners on Amazon, all the things we've looked through look pretty darn good. It is a competitive niche.
Mm-hmm.
But we see on Audible, there's almost no one there. But if we ask ourselves a question, is this book good for audio? The answer is, to me, what I would say, no, because people want to see visuals. They want to see techniques and little things that you're doing. So that is actually probably the reason there are so few books. And this is where it's a balance between you want to see that there's not a lot of results, but you also need to ask yourself, is there a reason there's not a lot of results? So I'm
But
really
will
happy
also
that
be
you
an
brought that up.
opportunity. Right. It could also be an opportunity because maybe, yeah, people at sellers like selling crochet, they were also thinking the same thing. Ah, it's not worth it for audio. But actually there are other consumer or customer that, oh, I want to just listen to it because I already know how it works. I just want to have
Hmm.
something to, something to listen to that I can
Yeah,
follow. So it's
yeah.
an opportunity as well, right?
Yeah. So exactly. And that's why we always have to balance the data point versus like kind of stepping back and thinking about it. So let's go through these
Kind of like
criteria
a
really quick.
gamble.
Yeah, it is, and that's why launching a book or any products on Amazon, there's always risk, right? We're
Mhm.
investing time and money into it. We're trying to use all of these criteria that we've gone over so far as ways to help reduce that risk and tell us what path is the best one forward. So to break these down in the sense of Audible. So first, number of results on Audible. Green, so our really good is going to be if there's less than 20. That's going to tell us like there's not a lot of competition. Okay. 20 to 100 is pretty good. If there's more than 100, we're starting to get into, oh, there's more competition. I would say really 100 up to 200 is still okay. Once you get over 200, it's starting to get pretty competitive. The second criteria, we want to see that there's less than 5 books with more than 75 reviews. So there shouldn't be 5 books or more that already have 75 reviews. Ideally, 0 to 1 is okay. 2 to 4 is sorry, 0 to 1 is good. 2 to 4 is okay. If there's more than 5, it starts telling us there's again some sellers that are pretty entrenched. Still, if I got everything else green but that's red, I'd probably still write the book. And then the last question is gut check. Is this good for audio? Yes or no? Right. So let's use crochet for beginners first. So our first criteria is again less than 20, 20 to 100, more than 100. Okay, we already know there's less than 20. So it would be green. Now,
Mhm.
and then we can quickly spot check here. There, if we look at the reviews, there's no one really that has 75 or more reviews. So in fact, there's a lot of these books are not even rated. Okay, so technically, this book would be green on both accounts here. But then we ask ourselves the question, is this good for Audible? I think we can both say with a resounding no, this book is probably not as good for audiobook. So that's
I
Crochet for
can
Beginners.
imagine.
Let's talk about hydroponics next. On Amazon, there are 5,000 plus results. On Audible, there's 119 results. Okay. So we're just above this yellow. So technically we're a little bit red. I still think 119, even though I have it marked as red, is still okay. Really this is up to 200. In fact, I should probably change this to 200, but so less than 5 with 75 plus reviews. I bet there's going to be some in here that have a high review count, but actually in scrolling through, so I'm not going to do this whole thing, but here's one that's showing up. Mini farming is not, I mean, hydroponics is a part of it. It's not directly competitive. This book's got 213. So we can start seeing there's some that have, our review count. I'm not going to go through all the pages in here for the sake of the video, but you wanted to give it a quick scan and see, are there a lot of people that have the reviews? Hydroponics, is it good? I'd probably say yes. I mean, it's not the ideal peep. There might still be some stuff I want to put in there, visuals, but I think it could probably still be sellable on Audible. So again, that's what's a gut check, and everyone's got to ask themselves. I'll tell you one that I've looked at before that I almost went into was a coin collecting book. That book,
Mhm.
it had actually pretty good numbers across the board until I asked myself the question, is this good on audiobook? And the answer was no, because I think people want to see pictures of the coins and whatever the book I was writing about. So that's kind of our criteria there. I'm going to stop and ask Arvin, any questions? Is this making sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, you have to consider all of this, the questions we're asking ourselves as well, because you will run
Yeah,
into it when you start selling your book on Amazon. So, just
yeah.
important to note. Hmm.
Let's talk about our last two criteria, and then I think we can probably wrap up. So our last two criteria are again just going to be questions. This is L
Before
and M
before
right
you
here.
proceed,
Yeah,
before you proceed with this one, is there a reason why column H is hidden? It's a H hidden.
column H. I can unhide it. Let's see. This one is, I believe, about the reviews as well. Uh, this is so column H. Going back to it is um, if there are more. This is pertaining to our Amazon results. This is if there are books that have 500 or more reviews. We ideally want as
Ah,
So this is kind of going to be going back to our average review count. So this is a hidden criteria. I would say this is again not one that's really, really important, but why
Okay.
this is here, I'll just mention it because you brought it up, is why this is here is this is to help prevent us from going into categories that have a really big author or brand name established. So like if we search for hydroponics and let's say there are like a couple authors in there that are
Mm-hmm.
big names, like huge gardening influencers. I don't know who they'd be. I don't know any gardening influencers, but
I don't know.
names you like the easier example is if you're going to write a book about entrepreneurship or self motivation. We know that those books, it's going to be Tony Robbins, it's going to be Oprah Winfrey, and those books are all inherently probably going to have thousands of reviews. And that's where we start to get into this risky category that we don't necessarily want to go into. So, this criteria, if there's more than 5 books showing on Amazon that have 500 plus reviews, it's not, it's a sign that maybe this is a category that has some big names we don't want to go into. 2 to 4 is maybe okay. Really, you want to have no one that has 500 plus reviews. So, that's that hidden column. The
All
last
right.
two, just to answer. So, these are gut check questions. And the last two are asking yourself after you've gone through this with all the other criteria, can can you build a brand around this? Like if I launched my first gardening book or hydroponics or crochet, is there enough demand in kind of surround like could I then come out with a book about something related to it? Why? Because as we build our pen name or our brand name on Amazon or brand name in general, you want to think a little bit longer term. And it's a lot easier to piggyback off your first book to launch secondary books. And so,
And combo.
you know, what's that? I'm sorry.
And combo.
And combo books, yeah. So a big part of
Mm-hmm.
the strategy, which we can touch on in a different video, is your second book and your first book, using them and then creating a third book that's a combo book of both of them in one. And that's why we ask this question: is can I build a brand around this? Yes or no? And the last one related to that is personal interest. Do I care? If you're going to invest a lot of time and money into writing this book, which means you're going to have to be somewhat interested in the topic um, and that's kind of the last question. So these ones are just kind of gut check questions. Really, these last three are gut check questions. Do I care about this? Can I build a brand around it? Do I have some kind of personal interest? If you see hydroponics is a great book to write about, but then at the end of the day, you're like, I don't care. In fact, I hate this category or topic. Well, that might be something to think about. Um,
Yeah.
Crochet. I personally am not that excited about crochet. So even if all the numbers look good, I'd have to think about that. Do I want to spend time writing and money writing about this book and then another book about crochet and so on and so forth? So those are kind of our last two criteria here. Um, those are all the criteria. So again, I'll really fast. I'm just going to summarize. We'll put links to the other two videos, but we want to see page one search results have our main keyword. How many competitors are there? The monthly search volume on Amazon, the average bestsellers rank on page one, the number of listings with a 30K or less BSR, the average revenue page one, average reviews on page one. Are there any big names that have a lot of reviews? Audible, is it competitive? Are
Mm-hmm.
there any people that are entrenched and have a lot of reviews? And then is this book topic even good for an audiobook or not? And finally, can you build a brand around this and do you care about this topic? Those are our criteria. And again, as you go through this process and start finding keywords, what I do is just create a column here to the left of this, and you put these keywords in and start highlighting your columns: yellow, red, green. And at the end of that, you'll have 10 or 20 keywords here, and you'll be able to start looking and evaluating of my 10 or 20 I've just researched. What is the best thing? What are the best two topics to write about? And that's kind of the process that I go through and we go through to write books on Amazon. All right. Any questions?
That's good. Yeah, yeah, just one question because we covered a lot of criteria in here, and we know that with not all of this criteria needs to be considered or will be met. But if I will just ask you, what would be the top three criteria that if those criteria are met, then yeah, oh yeah, I'm gonna like regardless if the rest are not met, then it's a goal for you.
That's a really good question. I think to me, so these ones right here, I'm just going to highlight really quick. I'll put them in blue. So, number of search results, monthly search volume, average BSR, I'm also going to say, did you ask me in top three or top five?
Top three. If you want
Okay.
top to provide us top five, then that's good.
So my top three are these three because this tells me how many competitors there are. Is there demand for this? And is that demand actually buying the books that are currently in category? These are my main three that I'm going to probably put the heaviest weight towards. This one in E tells me, is there a chance that I can like launch a really good quality book in this category and have it be a breakout? That really helps give me an uptick in my business. And I would say Audible is arguably still one of the areas where you can be competitive and there are not as many competitors. So I think that this is probably my fifth one. So if you were to ask me my top five, my top three are going to be these columns right here. And then my top five, going to add in the this and this. Those are my top criteria,
Mm,
and that was a really good question.
yeah, I kind of agree. But the only, I mean, to me, of course, I will also consider if I am really interested writing this book. I think
Yeah,
if I really want to like something, I'm really interested in this one. Even if, let's say, most of the criteria that you mentioned there is not met, I'm still gonna write it regardless. Because again, writing is like business; it's a gamble.
yeah, you're right. So, and so everything that we've gone over in these videos, there's an element of take this and apply it to your own process. Everyone's going to have a different way of going about this. This is just what we do, and well, what I personally do, and it's worked for me. And writing 10 books, and we've got another 8 books coming out pretty soon. So, this is the
A
process that
lot.
I followed and refined through that process. And this will probably get continually refined. Some of these numbers and data points might change, but um, this is a good way to kind of get your feet in the game or get your feet wet and actually get your first book kind of launched. So again, if you do want a copy of this Google sheet with all the criteria, message Arvin or myself on LinkedIn or leave a comment on this video or go better yet, go to our website, producthouse.com. We'll put a link to it below and just drop a message in the chat bot there and we can get you that copy of this.
Can I also reach out if, let's say, I need help and I want to schedule a call with you, Ben? Can I also do that?
Yeah, sure. If you reach out to us, then we can work and try to find time to schedule a little session and maybe even go through some of this stuff. So
That's awesome.
it's a good
All
question.
right. And I think
Cool.
that's it. So anything else you want to add there, Ben?
That's it. I think we're good.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, if you have any question again, we're just repeating ourselves. Just feel free to reach out to us through our LinkedIn profile or just email us or go to our website. So again, thank you
Awesome.
so much, Ben, and looking forward for more content about KDP.
Love it. Thanks, Arvin. Cheers.
Bye.